when you're looking for a job, everybody's going to come out of the woodwork and give you advice. Your parents, your family, your friends, your coworkers, neighbors, someone you bump into at Starbucks. Everybody's going to have their thoughts. And everyone's going to think theirs are right. What I would suggest to you is this. There's certain commonly held advice that's not really so good. People will think, hey, yeah, this is how it should be. And they just recite the same trite, cliche statements, and they think they're smart and giving valuable advice. Allow me to elaborate a little bit. How many times have you heard someone say, don't take the first offer? It kind of makes sense when you think about it. All right, why should you take the first offer if you can get a lot of other better offers? So on the surface, that's very reasonable advice. But then if you think about it, you have to adjust the time period. If you happen to be looking for a job in, let's say, a pandemic that's 8 months long, and you have over 65 million Americans who filed for unemployment benefits since mid-March, and now as of the time of this taping, it's I think November 1st, because days really don't make sense anymore. The first offer might be the only offer you get. Now, I'm not saying you have to be desperate and take anything. You have to weigh it. If it's a good, solid offer, it's the job you want, the company you love to work with, the people seem really super awesome, the compensation is fair, maybe it's even a little more than fair, there's upside in terms of developing and growing your career, that's okay, that's good. We're not in the environment right now, unless you're very fortunate and you're in a field that's hot, then that's a few. But for the vast majority of people, there may not be lots and lots of offers. So it's not fair for someone to say, hey, don't take the first offer, because that might be the best and only you have. Again, you don't have to jump on it, but it's something you have to take really seriously. A lot of times people say, you have to play hard to get. It's like dating. If you play hard to get, the other person wants you more. I don't know about this when it comes to looking for a job. If you play hard to get in a tough market, they're not going to chase after you because they're going to think there's so many other people who are looking. If you're not interested, no hard feelings. There's no malice. It's no ill will, but they feel, hey, if you're playing hard to get, when I say hard to get, you're not giving the times easy to go on the interviews, you're not making yourself available, you don't get back to them quickly, you ask a lot of questions before you commit to anything. You get the feel for like how people act when they're showing, you have to woo me, I'm not, sell me on this. Once again, that approach may work in a different kind of job market. In this kind of job market, hard to get. Think about it, if you're a hiring manager and you know there's lots of people who are out of work, there are lots of people looking, why are you going to go chase someone who's not interested? Now, you could be an amazing rock star, the best in the field. All right, well, maybe you pursue it a little bit, but if it's still hard to get, you're going to probably think, with so many people looking for work, there might be another rock star. Let's keep looking. For some reason, they'll say don't use recruiters. I'm not sure why. I think people have a misunderstanding of recruiters. They think that you have to pay recruiters, which you don't. The companies pay recruiters. They'll try to push you into something you don't want. That doesn't make sense because recruiters, as we talked about in another session, recruiters, for the most part, are contingency-based, meaning that they only get paid a commission if they find the winning candidate, place that candidate, and the candidate stays with the company for a certain amount of time. Otherwise, they're not going to make anything. If they don't find the right person, don't get them in there first, get them aboard, and they stay there, they get nothing. All the time is for nothing. So for recruiters, it's a vested interest to find the right person for the right job. Because if they're trying to squeeze someone in who doesn't have the right background, the right experience, it's just not going to work. Companies aren't going to say, oh, okay, we'll take Joe that you're giving me, even though Joe has only 3 of the 20 ingredients we're looking for, thanks. No. They're going to say to the recruiter, what's wrong with you? Don't you understand what we're looking for? I think we're going to have to use some other recruiters. Sorry. So a recruiter is definitely going to look Not because they're saints, but because it's their own enlightened self-interest to find the right person with the right skills for the job at hand, because they know that he or she can make a placement and make a commission if they do it. So to say and disregard a vital tool, it just doesn't make any sense. Could there be a couple of bad apple recruiters? Sure. Just like in any profession, bad teachers, bad doctors, bad accountants, bad stockbrokers. You're always going to get a few, but you can't just say, I'm never going to go to an accountant. I'm never going to go to a doctor. I'm never going to trust a policeman, fireman, teacher. No. Another thing, people say, don't take a lesser title or less money when you move. They're like, what? How can you take, what are you doing? You're going backwards in your career. What's wrong with you? Well, that's very easy for someone else to say. You have to see about your particular situation. If you're in between roles and you've been looking for months on end and nothing is happening, you owe it to yourself to keep all options open. And if that means taking a job that the salary is maybe a little lower, the title is a little lower, your mortgage payments are still there, your kids' college tuition payments are still there, you're taking money out of your retirement accounts, well, then you have to really think critically, what do I do? Do I want to take a step back? No. Do I want to have a lesser title? No. But what's my alternatives? I could keep interviewing. Who knows? Maybe I'll never get a job again. Maybe I'll never get a job this as good as the one that it's presented. It's some of these commonly held beliefs are really obnoxious. It's under the heading of it's easy for that person to say and tell someone else to do without really being in their shoes. If you're in between roles and you've been looking for a long time and the market doesn't show much improvement, you owe it to yourself to have every option open. Even if you're not excited about it, just to get back in the game. It also makes sense to think about a pivot or reinvent yourself. That maybe you use this time to say, all right, if I can't find something in my field that I love, and I've been doing for 10 years, let me find the skills, the background that could transfer over to something else. Yeah, I might have to take a few steps back, but I really like that something else. And let me try that. And even though I'm making less money, and even though it's not as prestigious, in my heart, I would enjoy it. I like waking up because I really like whatever that thing is you want to do. You might even want to say, you know what, if I can't find something what I did, and I can't get the same money, maybe I'll reinvent myself. Go back to school, learn something new, take on a different career, try something radically different. So it's not a simple thing to say, don't take less money, less title. It's much more complex, particularly in these kind of time periods. Related to that, and we spoke about this earlier, the thing of follow your passion. It's said follow your passion. And we talked about it previously. That's all well and good. This is a big if you're passionate about something where you can make a living, you have growth opportunity, there's plentiful jobs, and you enjoy doing it, then all right, that's works. Then following your passion, it makes sense. If your passion does not correlate with the jobs out there, meaning that you're passionate about whatever, but there's not jobs for it, or the few jobs that are out there don't pay anything that you're used to and you can't live on it, then you're not going to be happy. So it's not worth doing your passion, because your passion is going to fade really fast when you're doing something and you can't find other jobs, you're not going to earn a decent living, and you're going to be struggling, and you'll see how all of a sudden that passion turns to hate, and you're going to hate it. Conversely, if you have skills and you're good at it, and you enjoy doing it, and there are a lot of those jobs out there, and they pay well, you're going to be passionate about it. Did I love compliance when I started recruiting for it? No. I didn't hate it, I didn't love it, it was just whatever. But then, when it became really hot and there's demand, and my recruiting business was doing amazing, placing thousands of compliance and legal and risk and audit people. I had a passion for it. Trust me, I couldn't wait. Seriously, I could not wait to get up in the morning and work. If I had a choice to go and play golf or work. Now, that's not fair to say because I don't play golf anyway. But I would work because I was so excited. It was great. I had such passion. Then, when all of a sudden, and this is not politics, just is what it is, when with the Trump administration, they were very upfront saying, even before Trump was elected, they're going to pretty much do away with regulations. They felt it gets in the way of business. And then all of a sudden, you could see companies like, all right, we don't need these kind of compliance or regulatory risk audit people because they stand in the way of business and we don't have to pay, and they make decent money, we don't have to pay them. All of a sudden, you saw the business slow down a lot. And guess what? My passion kind of waned. My passion was like, I'm not as passionate anymore because it's not as fun and not as easy and not as lucrative as it was. And I can tell you firsthand, then the passion wanes. You're not as passionate anymore. And it's just life. It happens. So they say, follow your passion. It has to be something where you can make a living that you want. There are jobs, there's a future, there's growth. And you'll find passion if it all works and you make money. You can be passionate about anything. Do you think Jeff Bezos, when he first started, do you think he was passionate about books and mailing out books to people? How can you be passionate about that? I mean, but he was passionate about the whole idea and passionate what it come. And as it grew, I'm sure he's amazingly passionate because look how successful he is. And you can look at that with a lot of people. Think of what they do and how they made their money. It's impossible for some people to be passionate about or to go into it because they're passionate about the different things they're doing. But once they become successful, then they're passionate about it. Then they love it. Well, that's why they want to talk about it because it's fun, and it's fun because you're making money, you're successful, and you're growing your career, and it's awesome. That's what you have to do. Here's another thing. People tell you got to fight for every dollar. Don't give up. Keep pushing for it. The company's trying to take advantage of you. They're going to lowball you. Well, yeah, maybe, and probably. But again, that's really easy for you to say because you're not in my shoes. If I'm looking for a job and there's not a whole lot of other jobs out there and I don't know when I'm going to get the next job, I got to be open-minded. Do you want to completely capitulate? No. Do you want to just get run over? No. But you have to have your antenna up and see the best you can do within the situation. You don't want to come in guns a-blazing and thinking you're going to get everything and more in an environment that maybe you won't. Now, some jobs you can. Some positions you can. But most in this environment, not so much. So you have to be reasonable and thoughtful. And not just say, well, you're going to lowball me. Hell with you. I'm leaving. Or I want X, Y, Z, and you're not giving it to me, so you're jerks and I'm out here. You can't do that in this market. You have to kind of keep open-minded. You have to see what are your alternatives. If you have a lot of alternatives, then maybe, sure. If you don't have a lot of alternatives, why shoot yourself in the foot? Doesn't make sense. You want to keep an open mind and you want to be flexible and you don't want to be pushed too hard. Because if you push too hard, they'll just say, just from dealing with hiring managers all the time, what they'll say is, hey, as a recruiter, they'll say to me, Jack, you know what? I get a sense that your candidate really doesn't want it because they're making these unreasonable requests. Don't they understand the market we're in? And that's another thing. They're going to think, what's their thought process? Don't they understand it's a tough market? Jack, don't they understand that my hands are tied? There's only so much I can do. Now, I'm not saying that I want to take advantage of, but like our budgets are cut. We're not hiring that much. We have a head count that was approved and we could hire, but I can't spend too much money on it because if I spend too much money, that's going to come out of our budget and then someone on the team is going to take a cut. I don't want to do that. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. It's not, do you have companies that are mercenaries that are terrible? Yeah, absolutely, all the time. But do you also have where they're constrained and they can only do so much? Picture if you're, an oil industry like Exxon that's just going to lay off 30,000 people, but they have a certain need. Do you think they're going to just throw money at that new person coming in? Or they're going to just try to keep it, try to keep the budget low? Because how much would it infuriate all the other workers that are getting laid off and say, hey, you brought in this new person, look how much you're paying this new person. So there's a lot that you have to take into account. Here's another one. Have you ever heard someone to say, well, if you're not happy and they're not giving you what you want, just leave? Really? Come on, that has to be the most tone-deaf thing. Yeah, in a perfect world, sure, if you're not happy, you're not getting everything you want to leave, but you got to judge the market. If you're in a place, in a market that's not so hospitable, you might want to suck it up. And if you do want to leave, and we talked about this right at the beginning of these masterclasses, is that you got to really think it through before you do it. You don't want to just run out the door in a hissy fit and say, I'm out of here. In a hot market, yes, but even in a hot market, you don't want to do that because it sends the wrong signal. And when you go interview somewhere else and you say, well, they didn't give me everything I want, that's why I'm here for a new job, they can be like, I don't know if we want you. You can seem like difficult to deal with. There's a time and place for everything, and you got to adjust it. And the challenge is, for a lot of people, you're getting advice from folks who haven't been in this current market, so they don't know what it's like. They're using what happened to them a year ago, and this is what it is. It could even be a year ago. It's so different. A year ago, you could go to someone's office like a human being. Go in the office, go to the, you see what the building looks like. You go up the building, you look it all around, look at what people are doing, see if they're happy, not happy, meeting a whole bunch of people, shaking hands. Think about how different it is in 1 year. So the experience for someone from a year ago is so different than now. 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years was so different. So when they're saying, hey, if you don't get everything you like, leave, come on. It's childish almost. You can't do that. You got to be an adult and think, hey, I got to maybe suck it up till I can find something better, or try to work with your boss and manager to say, hey, here's I want to succeed. I want to do well. I want to advance. I want to contribute. Can we talk and see how you could help me to do that? Because I'm going to basically help you. So you don't storm out. You want to have that conversation. Another thing, people say, hey, don't pay attention to HR, they're just gatekeepers. Or don't give the time of day to the receptionist and other folks. Treat everybody with respect and dignity and courtesy. If you don't think that if you're rude to a receptionist, to an administrative person, to an HR person, that they're not going to give that feedback to the hiring manager and senior people, you're nuts. They're going to do it. They're going to do it. They're going to say, hey, this guy Jack came in, he was really arrogant, he was really bossy, and kind of a little bit of a jerk and rude to me. That's going to come up. So you want to treat, they'll say, bypass HR, go past them. They're blocking you from getting the job. The receptionist, the administrative assistant, they're trying to block you from getting in there, so just steamroll over them. It's going to backfire. Do you try politely to navigate? Sure. But you want to be polite, you want to be professional. You want to treat people with dignity and respect, because they'll appreciate that. And that makes your brand, that makes you look good. And if you don't do it, it's going to make you look bad. So the thing is this, keep in mind, when you're looking, you're going to get all sorts of advice, both solicited and unsolicited. You're going to go out there and ask people, and they're going to give you all sorts of things. And they're going to tell you things from their experience that may or may not work. So you have to filter before you react, before you do anything. Thank them for the advice. Thank them. So you really appreciate it. I'm so glad that you're looking after me. Let me consider it. Because if you just blow them off and say, wow, that's really dumb advice, it doesn't make sense for what we are now, they're never going to help you again. So be considerate, let them know that you do appreciate that they tried to help, that you tried to reach out, and give you advice. It doesn't mean you have to actually do it. And some may be good, but these are the things you want to have. You want to be careful not to follow blindly what people tell you to do who haven't been in this current market, because this is different than any other market. I don't care what anyone says. Completely different. It's very unique. Oftentimes, you can compare different markets. This time, all bets are off. It's really different. It's a whole other game. So while they may have the best intentions, filter it, think it through, don't act compulsively, but be nice to them. Let them know you appreciate. Because you don't want to hurt your relationships with your network and people who care about you, who are trying to help. Because you're going to get it from all them. You tell them, thank you, great suggestions. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that you're on my side and trying to help. And then some of them, maybe it could be okay. You could get some really good nuggets. But the ones that could hurt you, take a step back, really analyze it before you move forward.